So, Dr. Rebekah, we're in your hands, man. And we just say, hey, welcome, and I'll kind of maybe break in every now and then and greet people as they come in, just so you get to know them a wee bit and where they're from. I'm looking around the circle here. Most of the people that are on now, except for my friend Alex, is from Michigan, and so yeah. So just we want to enjoy your time with you. We normally hear your testimony about what life was like before you got to know the Lord, and how you came to know the Lord, and then just a little bit about what God's doing in your life right now, in the dean of the school, and then again some just networking, how we can all be part of your vision, and how you can be part of our vision. So
Awesome. Thank you. Well, please call me Rebekah. No doctor necessary. I thank you for asking me to do this. It was kind of fun just thinking through, even on my way into work this morning, what are the pieces looking back, and then I kind of highlight my story. My story to Jesus is very simple because I've been walking with the Lord my whole life. I'm a pastor's kid. I grew up in the Pentecostal church, although a really big significant part of my story is I went to Baptist, like a Christian school, for most of my education, where, the word was prioritized, and memorizing the entire book of James was like, you weren't a Christian unless you did that. And then, but all of my youth group experiences was Pentecostal, and, everything was driven by the Holy Spirit. And for me, I'm just grateful because it was a beautiful balance of being immersed in the word, but then also living by the Spirit. So that's kind of my faith background. For me, my faith really came alive when I was a teenager, and I'm sharing this piece because it will kind of tie into what I'm doing now. I had incredible youth pastor that was just alive. From a very young age, from like 10, 11, 12, I just had dedicated my whole life to the Lord. Like, Lord, here I am, just like Samuel. Whatever you want to do, my life is yours. But in at least my kind of denomination and growing up, ministry was church work. So I had this like push, I had this compulsion to go into ministry, to do ministry, but that meant you were serving in the church or in the mission field. And so for years, I felt like I kind of lived in this cloud. At the time, it didn't feel heavy, but okay, I didn't feel called to be a pastor, so I guess I'm going to be a missionary. So all my teenage years, I'm going to be in the mission field, just waiting for God to give me direction. Where am I going? What am I going to be doing? And my youth pastor had given me this word when I was 13. He had this vision. He was praying over me one day. I don't remember if it was camp or whatnot, but he's praying over me, and he has this vision, and he says, I see you collecting all of these flowers in a field, and you're putting them in a basket. And then you keep handing this basket to the Lord, and he empties the basket and gives you an empty basket back. And then you just keep gathering, and then you hand him the basket, and it just repeats. So I had written that in my Bible. I'm like, okay, it didn't mean much at 13. But when I fast forward today, I can just see so much beauty in how that word has really come to fruition in what I'm doing today. A very significant event disrupted kind of my life. So I grew up as a pastor's kid, and my dad, when I was a senior in high school, like totally pivoted 180. I'm not going to do the God thing. I'm not going to do the church thing. Don't actually want to do the family thing, and just walked out of my life.
oh
And very profound, a very pivotal time in your life and growth. I had incredible youth leaders and youth pastor that just like surrounded me in that time. And actually, I'm very careful when I share this with teenagers, but even at the time, I was dating a boy who is now my husband. And I really believe that the Lord brought him in as a covering, even at that young age, to say, I have someone that's going to protect you and care for you. And so while it did disrupt my life, there's a lot of pain in the story, but I never faltered from my faith. Like, I always remained anchored to the cross. And because I had these incredible youth leaders and this incredible youth pastor and his wife that really had like come alongside of me. However, there was so much, my mom was in so much pain. There was just so much going on in my family that I felt like I lost both my mom and my dad at the same time. And so I really didn't have parental direction. And so when I went off, that happened my senior year in high school. And so then when I went off to college, I had no business being there. I had no Neither of my parents went to college. I would say while my youth leaders and my youth pastors were incredible spiritual support, they all were like, oh, go to Bible college for a year. That's all the training that you need to do this church work, life in the ministry, mission field. Education was so not important. It wasn't celebrated. It wasn't anything that we really talked about. And so I really floundered. I went to a big state school in Michigan. And my first year, I nearly got kicked out. I had like under a 1.0. I was going through all this pain. I was in the wrong major. I mean, just no direction at all. And so it's important to my story today because as the dean of a school who now has a doctorate degree and looks back, it's been such a cool piece to be able to sit with students today and say, yeah, I know this looks pretty bad. Whether you cheated and we're having a discipline meeting, or it's just really not working because you have significant life events going on at home, let me sit here with you and let me share my story with you. And like, this isn't the end. So that's just been kind of a cool way that God brought all this kind of to fruition and to a highlight point for me right now. So I ended up dropping out of school and married my husband very young. I was 20. And was like, all right, I landed my first job in sales just by happenstance and found that I loved it. It was like, wow, I really enjoy communicating and connecting in relationships. And after a few years of doing it, I really did I wanted to build a career. And I'm like, I really want to finish this degree. I think it's important. I had about a year of credit behind me. So this is like early 2000s. And at that time, I loved my job. I didn't want to quit. So I'm like, I'll go to night school. And to go to night school, the only option in night school was business. So I didn't pick it because I was passionate about it. I picked it because it was the only option. It felt like it went along with sales just fine. And then what I found sitting in these business courses at night was just this explosion of self-discovery and awareness and like, wow, God has created me for order and innovation and creativity and relationship and communication. And I just came alive in my business courses. And so I didn't finish my bachelor's degree till I was almost 30. And by that time, part of a story I won't get into today is, but another painful part of my husband and I's story is we weren't able to have kids. So we ended up opening our heart and life to adoption. Today I have 5 kids. And so I just kept like, because of our life and situation, I ended up, I did do an MBA. I did that really quickly after I finished my undergrad, and God started like shaping this calling in my life where I still had this like picture of, I don't know what that flower thing is that God wants me handing in baskets to heaven. And I don't know what to do with this ministry thing because I feel called to do important work in ministry. But at this point, I still feel like this is in the church, but I'm like, feel skilled and gifted in this business world, in this business lane. Nobody in my undergrad, in my MBA program, nobody had ever said to me that my work in business could be ministry. Those words were never mentioned. We never talked about business as calling. We never talked about business calling, ministry, meaningful work. Like those words were just not used in any of my business education. And so it wasn't until I started my doctorate degree. So when I was in my MBA program, I decided, you know what, I think I might want to teach. When I was like looking back and looking at the significant points in my life, it was this period I had in high school where I had these incredible mentors. And then what I didn't have in college, I'm like, I think there's a place for me. I wish that I had more, that someone could have helped mentor me through the process and help me see my gifts in a way that really I didn't have anybody directing me. And so I started at Rochester just off of this kind of idea of, I think I want to give back. I think college might be the right place for me. So I'm going to just put my foot in the door and I'll take whatever position they have. And so I ended up just on the kind of business side of college and ended up working my way into administrator role through all of this time. Really, I have only been in this role for 4 years. Once I had my MBA done, they did allow me to start teaching. So I've been teaching for a long time, but not at like a faculty role, not at a full-time capacity. My track to this position is very non-traditional. And So I finished my MBA and I just loved school so much. I was so hungry to learn. And so I really hardly took time off. So I kind of maybe a few years off, and then I got into my doctoral work. When I started my doctoral program, I went to Anderson University, which is a small Christian college in Indiana. So that's the first point I've ever had faith integrated into my education. It literally changed my life, and I don't mean it in a dramatic way. And it's a funny realization for me, because at the time I had started the program, I had already been working here at Rochester Christian University for maybe 12, 15 years. So like I was in Christian education. I felt like the work I was doing was meaningful, but it was not until I was sitting in the classroom that like it was like every light bulb in your brain that could come on came on. And it was in those classrooms the first time I heard the term theology of business, where we are going to study God's character alongside business acumen. We are going to study his nature. We're going to learn how to be leaders that listen. I mean, it just changed my entire perspective of how I saw the world. It was the first time somebody told me, business is ministry. People are going to come alongside you in business. You are going to connect with people that are never going to step foot into the church. And it truly was just such a life-giving, life-changing moment to realize, oh my goodness, I've been doing it all along. Nobody told me that this was where I was most effective, that this is where how God had shaped me and gifted me and was using me, and that I didn't have to seek work. Like, to me, all of my ministry was happening inside the church walls, or what I was doing on the nights and weekends, not what I was doing, every day for my work. So all of that led me to, when I graduated, God planted this burning inside of my soul of, I have to do something different. I want business students to have the same experience that I had. I want them to have it from the day they step foot on campus. I don't want them to have to wait 30 years like I did. I don't want them to have this long career and like wonder, where am I at and what is God doing with me and where can I be the most effective? And so this is the non-traditional part. Usually, to be a dean of a school of business, you would have been a faculty, you have been tenured, you like walk through this very traditional pathway. But the dean of the school of business had resigned, and so there was a spot open, and I just felt this urgency in my heart. I'm going to apply. I had been teaching, so it wasn't like I had never been in the classroom. I'd been teaching for 12 years, but like a class or two a year. I had never taught full time, but I just had this vision, and I walked into those meetings. It was intimidating because I've been here. I've been here for 20 years. So everybody that's sitting around that table knew who I was. They knew me in this administrator role. And I was actually our registrar. If you know anything about a registrar, you are the like regulation police, and nobody likes you. And so I like walking into this meeting, and I just put my heart on the line and told a similar story to what I've kind of shared with you today, and saying, like, God's ready to do something new here. And I think that he wants to use me, and I want to infuse this energy and this passion and really this heart. Like, I feel this urgency in my heart to share with students that you don't have to just do church work, and you don't have to just do missions work to be in the ministry. And so later I was told that is what got me the job, not my not my credentials, not my experience. So here I am. It's been 4 years that I've been the dean. So apart from my family, the two major, calls and loves of my life are, I am a leader in our church youth group today. I work with our high school girls, and really, because when I look back on my story, that was the most significant point in my life where my life could have gone a complete different way. I had people pouring into me and developing me and telling me how great I was and loving on me. And so that is a huge part of my work today. And then, of course, now what I get to do on the business school side, when I think back on that vision of this basket, and handing it to the Lord, I feel like that's what I get to do. Every 4 years, I get a new crop of students that comes in here. I get to share my heart with them. I get to share how much God loves them. I tell them all the time, the magic is already in you. Like, you already have, all I'm doing is helping you articulate it, help you polish it up. if so many of our students, I don't know how much you know about our university, but I would only say half of our students come here for Christian education. Many of them come here to play sports or for other reasons. And so they're blindsided a little bit when they get into their first business course and they're like, wait, we're not just going to learn statistics. Nope, we're going to learn the heart of God alongside what we're doing. We have a growing Muslim population at the university. And so it's just been a really cool, wild ride in the way that God has been able to use me to infuse this idea of theology of business and what this looks like. In my business ethics class, I'm teaching that right now this semester, and all of the business ethics classes that I had, and I had many of them throughout my, time in education, were so crusty. And it was like, hey, we're going to teach you not to money launder. Like, okay, I know I'm not going to money launder. Like, that was not a thing I was ever setting out to do. There is so much more to ethics in who do you want to be? Like, what do you want to reflect? And so the framework that we use, a secular framework when we go through ethical decision making, but then I put the sacred lens over it and say, okay, now does the action that you're about to do or the decision you're going to make when we're looking at all these case studies, does it reflect the heart of God? You could ask, I just told students this the other day. You could ask me last week, Dr. Pinchback, did everything that you do, was everything that you did ethical? And I would answer without even thinking about it, of course. Like, I live my life to a high standard, a standard of excellence. I try to reflect, Christ in everything that I do. Yes, I can say with confidence that everything I did last week was ethical. But if you ask me, did every decision you make reflect God's heart?
Ooh.
Man, I have to sit back and pause because I'm human. There are lots of times where my ego gets in the way or whatever, that no, I did not reflect the heart of God. And so how do we keep that just present in our decision making all the time, where it's just sitting right here is how I'm gonna react, how I'm gonna respond to this email, how I have to lead my team through budget crisis, how we're going through layoffs or whatever the thing is. How am I gonna do that with love? How am I gonna listen to every person that I'm responsible for with empathy? And so we just have these incredible conversations in the business classroom, and I'm seeing the hearts of students come alive the same way my heart came alive when I learned it this way for the first time. And so I'm just so excited to be here. I feel like my work is the best. I can't even believe I get paid to do, what I get to do. Working with students is energizing. They are amazing. I do not jump on this bandwagon that this is a terrible generation. I tell them all the time, you are an amazing generation. Like, God has equipped you to live at this time for a reason. The way they push back in ways that they should be pushing back. We have unhealthy work balance. So all the things that they bring, I love, and I really encourage it and I pour into them. And so I'm just honored to be part of this space that you want to even hear this part of my story, because as I'm developing these leaders, I want them to go, I really tell them, you are world changers. You are going to leave this classroom. I pray over them. It's so weighty for me when I see them walk across the stage, like, now go do incredible things, go do greater things than I'll ever do. You have all of the tools, you have the resources, you have a relationship with Jesus. Like, now go show the world.
Oh my
Go
goodness.
be different. So that's my story in a nutshell. I don't know if that's enough for what you were looking for, if you want to know more, but that's kind of what brought me here.
Oh my goodness, no, you've pounded us with such good stuff. I mean, I've got 20 questions just from what you said and just how you navigated some of that stuff. I just think to myself, this high school girl, just when everything about your whole life, you grew up in church, that all that anchoring and all that structure, and then suddenly it blows apart. Just because I think that all of us on this concord, there is a presupposition that if we become a Christian and we live this Christian life, then suddenly we walk on water and everything's perfect. And then you hear reality hits, and bad things can happen to really good people. And I just love that. And again, too, and just really quickly, one quick question, because I want you to go on to the part of what you've been doing in the school and through the school, because I think that's a part of where we can all intersect with you, and even some practical pieces too. I'd love to pick your brain more on that. But you said you had 5 kids that you adopted. Just give me a quick. It's 5, correct? What are their ages, right?
So right now, we have 3 that are 16, 12, and 10. So my life is surrounded by young people, lots of teenagers.
Man, it blows my mind, and just I salute you so much for that. You know, my
16-year-olds at the same time?
316.
Yes.
Are they triplets?
No, not biologically related.
You're brave.
Wow, we got to be praying more for you, man. I tell you, that's exciting. My wife and I had spoken about adopting 1,000 times and just never the guts to jump right into it. So praise God for you and what you're doing there and just in that small place. And then I love the fact you jump back into your youth group. And I know you don't want to be called necessarily doctorate in this kind of context, but I want to honor that degree. I want to honor that hard work to get that doctorate. But then to watch this doctor just jump into a youth group and have too many s'mores on a Friday night just blows my, just thinking about how you are pouring back in like that just blows my mind. And I'm very encouraged by you and motivated. But I think for our context here, what I'd love to hear is you've taken this vision of the flowers and this mentoring, but you're also doing some catalytic work in companies and you're shaping and forming company leaders and CEOs and people called into the business space. You've got a bunch of leaders here on the call. What would be something that you would say that you have found encouraging? How have you mentored leaders? How to lead? I mean, look, because business can be pretty brutal. I'm sitting in a company, it's called ASAP, and they do expediting. So we move freight around the country. Well, when we tell China to go away and we have an economic decline, you're suddenly sitting in a company that's got more trucks than necessary, for example. How are you navigating and helping people in leadership where they've had these highs and lows in business? Just staying faithful to God and working that through. What would you say to people in that context? How to do life when sometimes the world throws some curveballs at you?
So I probably would tell business leaders the same thing I tell students is like, what's anchoring you? What's keeping you center? How do you what are you doing every day that is life-giving? Do you have a mentor in your life? I preach mentorship so much that you should always be mentoring behind you. Who are you mentoring and raising up behind you, and who is pouring into you? That is one way actually that I need more connection with business leaders, because I have so many students who really, this is the time, if you have raised a teenager, some of them, they're still coming to school in pajamas, and they're not always the most motivated, and trying to polish them up and tell them what's good for them. And they're like, nah, get to that later. But when they can meet one-on-one with somebody who's doing work that they want to do, that really inspires them and gets them excited. And I would say the same thing for me. I came here very vulnerable and saying, I was not ready for this position in any way, shape, or form. I had never been a full-time faculty, and that is unheard of. That is not how you do it. So I have needed incredible mentorship. We have gone through really difficult times at the university, even facing hey, are we going to have to close the doors several years ago? And having a mentor that could walk through, how do you lead your team through that when there's panic? What are the things that you say? Just having somebody listen to my heart, where I just need to kind of, whether it's frustration that I need to air, or whether it's emotional, laying people off is very difficult. And we've gone through a few rounds of that here at the university, where we've had to let go people that I care very, very deeply about. And when you do that in a Christian environment, all of a sudden it's wait a second, people are accusing you of not being Christians. No, we're still a business. We have to operate efficiently. So, of course, listening with empathy and love and communicating well are the ways we can walk in that. But for me, the key is mentorship, is having somebody that can come alongside you and help you walk through those hard times. I couldn't do my job without it. And that's really how I encourage our students, is you do not leave here without a mentor. And my hope is, what I'm trying to cultivate here on campus, which didn't really exist in our school of business before, is I really want us to be an epicenter of education and professional development. That I tell the students this on my big rah-rah speech on graduation day before they leave me, and say, you're so excited to leave here and never think about this place again. But in 2 years, 5 years, in 10 years, when you find yourself in a leadership role and you feel under-equipped and you need someone to lean on, call us. Like, we're here. Like, we want to be that place that can continually pour into you and provide with you, to stand and pray with you, help you find the job that you're looking for, help you navigate these difficult things that happen in leadership. And so I'm still cultivating that, but that really is my end goal, is how do we help our community? That's why I'm so excited about what you all are doing. Okay, here's a resource of Christian business leaders coming together and saying, let's be in together and let's work together, and how can we uphold one another in really difficult, economic times.
That's good. No, just as you say that, man, a thousand things jump into my head a little bit. Do you, just a practical question? Do you have a podcast or a weekly or monthly gathering when you're just kind of facilitating sort of an open forum or an open table?
So not currently. That's part of the dream. And we actually have a digital marketing lab and studio that's opening in February. And that is our dream, to have a podcast that's at least monthly, bring students into that work, and bring Christian leaders from all around, not just Michigan, but even the country, to really, it's inspiring for the students. We bring a lot of guest lecturers into the classroom, and when they can see folks doing their work, I mean, I get old after a while, like, okay, we've heard all the things you have to say. They really do want to hear from you all about what you're doing, your track, how you got to where you are, the things that you had to overcome. And so that is, I really want a think tank environment, and that a council where we can lean on one another. That's where we were going. I don't have it built yet.
So how do we sign up for that, Rebekah? How do we get to
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Well, I mean, as you're talking, I'm thinking like we could, as a Michigan Christian Chamber, we can really be part of that picture in some way, like a networking piece or providing some. I mean, just the people in the circle here are some amazing brains. I mean, I think of my buddy Eric, who's just logged in from Mississippi. I mean, he's just running this incredible company and just like thinking through how he's thought through stuff. And and Alex from across the world, he's a sales guy by heart, just loves sales, and thinking about how you came into. So there's so many opportunities that we can really network on, just in terms of doing what you're saying, so that we each pick up a piece and run with it and become super more effective in that. But that's encouraging. I've got quite a lot of questions, but I want to give the group a chance. If anything is kind of tagged up for them that they're thinking about, anybody want to throw a question at Rebekah, just because I don't want to dominate all the conversation?
Yeah, so one of the questions do you have an actual formal mentoring program now, and if so, how do we get involved in that? How do we?
Yes, we do
How do
have
we
a
support?
formal program. I will tell you, I have more people interested in being mentors than I have students. So part of the education right now is getting students to realize that this is important. A lot of seniors realize it as they're starting to shop for jobs, and they come to our career events, and a lot of like wake up happens the senior year, but I want to push that back. I would love our sophomore and juniors to really be walking alongside a mentor and be working that kind of professionalism in their life earlier. But yes, we do have a formal program now. If that's something you wanted to get involved in, we'd love to have you.
That would be
I guess
awesome.
one of my questions is because I've been there to your university twice now. Once when Abdu spoke, Mr. Murray, which is one of the smartest individuals I've ever heard.
Phenomenal.
And Cam invited us to which is a Tuesday. You guys do Tuesday and Thursday morning, right?
Yes.
11. And I was kind of pointed out to you from Cam, but I don't think I maybe got to say hi, but you were busy talking with someone, so I didn't want to interrupt that. But I love what you're saying. And I hear this where it relates to this phrase that I've heard about 2 years ago constantly now, is our history is his story, right? So when you're telling that and you're transparent about that, there's thousands of people that can always relate to one story, and that helps people come out of their shell about feeling inadequate or whatever about what they're going through. And then when you have what you think that you're supposed to be doing, and then it's always like being open to what God wants for you and to use your skills in the way that he wants to use them, and to have the courage to follow that instead of saying, I'm going to go back to my comfort zone and because that part scares me, right? To venture out of that. But there's a book called Faith Driven Entrepreneur. I don't know if you ever heard of that book, Rebekah, but it's a really good one about being a business in the Christian world, in a secular world, and how to navigate through that. But it is a really good book, and they're part of something that it's called T Factor, in which Coca-Cola Consolidated is like the largest known like publicly traded company, and they in their mentorship and their chaplains within the company, and they have whatever 8,000 employees or something like that, but that they literally have on record where they bring hundreds of people to Christ all the time. And it kind of like shifted where I was thinking to bring in like-minded people into the business, but they said they literally pray every Monday morning because they have a changeover of almost 1,000 people a year, and they pray to bring in non-believers so that they can so that they can hear the word of God and Jesus. And it's like really, really cool. And Billy Graham, it's something that they follow, is that one of the next big revelations going to Christ is going to be through the business place. So I think that's huge, where this Michigan Christian Chamber, and the part or piece of it that I never thought of was the educational piece that definitely falls into this, and giving individuals a place to go to or a dream to follow, that there are businesses out there that you can do this, in following Christ.
Yeah. One of the areas I would say that I feel like the enemy is like really targeting this generation is like, we truly do have a mental health crisis. And a lot of what I feel like I'm doing in the classroom is there's so many times I ditch a lecture for the day because I just feel like the Holy Spirit is saying, like, we need to just like talk about what's going on. I can feel like heaviness in the room. And so one of the things that I've been burdened about lately is really just infusing confidence in students, helping them have good, healthy patterns from sleeping to eating to like, what does your faith walk look like? Are you just consuming when you come to chapel twice a week and you're not plugged into a church? Do you have community? Like, so in some ways I'm trying to build this thing around the student to say, because I see this generation has so much passion and creativity. They are more entrepreneurial than any generation that we've seen. When we have these warrior days, that's what we call when like new students come check out the university. I would say 8 out of 10 students that come by the business school table they come to me because they want to be entrepreneurs. They either are already running businesses, or they have a dream for a business that they want to run. And so it's kind of wild, like what's happening, but they're getting crippled by this anxiety of the amount of young female students that can't get out of bed in the morning because of their anxiety. And so trying to like come alongside them and shape them mentally and help them feel confident, know who they are in Christ is a really big part of the work that I'm doing. And I don't know what that looks like for mentorship yet, but I think if we want strong leaders coming out of a university that understand what it means to work with a theology of business, we do have to start at this like foundation piece to say, let's address like what's going on in your life that is causing barriers. One of the things that I've done that's been that they have not been comfortable with is I ditched technology in the classroom 2 years ago. I am a no technology classroom. We went back to old school paper and pens, no computers, no cell phones. I said, because you think you can multitask, none of us can multitask. I can't compete with whatever you're watching, whatever you're interacting with I'm not going to do a better job than they are. So we're going to truly engage. And what I found is in 2 years, I did this like longitudinal study at the end of last year. I saw a 10% rise in grades across all of my classes, just by taking technology out of the classroom. And so these are just you probably not traditional business like things you would think that I'm infusing, but I feel like it's necessary because I've got to get them out from under this depressive cloud of you don't think that you're good enough. you don't think that you're capable, like you don't have any grit, and we've got to build this up, because you're right. You're going to get to the marketplace and it's going to be hard. You can't show up late to every day to work. You can't miss deadlines. You can't just not get out of bed because you don't feel like it that day. And so how do we make you gritty in a very loving, warm slipper kind of way, where I'm pointing you to Jesus the whole time? That really has been a big part of the development that I've had to do in students.
And just one real quick follow-up, because I know other people want to talk, but like in this Michigan Christian Chamber, which is part of the U.S. Christian Chamber, and there's chambers that are opening up all over the country. I don't know what they're at right now, 20, maybe Mike or Brad or might know, but I think it's in the mid-20s right now. But and I was just having this conversation with Cam on Sunday, like it has to be all about growing the kingdom, right? So in growing the kingdom, we need to get people into church. So this whole thing about the Michigan Christian Chamber, U.S. Christian Chamber, is to grow the church, to grow it through business and grow the churches. Like we need people back in church and community with the church.
Yes.
It's great to read the Bible. It's great to do the other things, but getting in community with the church and doing things together and having those mentors within that, which Mike Covey is for me, as well as obviously Rodney, but it's just that's hopefully the drive, and for everybody else on the call in different parts of the country. And the one more thing is, like, the one big thing that was driven for this whole thing was hearing how within the Muslim world, the Muslim dollar goes around 14 times before it goes outward. In the Jewish community, it goes out 7 or 8 times. And in the Christian world, the dollar goes it's like 1.5. I don't know how that gets measured, but that's what I kept hearing was that, and that, like, why are we so afraid to try to give each other business or to work with each other, and so that the money goes back to the kingdom and grows the kingdom.
And partly it's the theology of business in a Christian, Judeo-Christian ethic. And James, I see your hand up there. We'll get to you in a second there. But it's just because, in a Muslim culture, I think you're first Muslim by culture. And then, whereas Christians, you're an individual, you become a Christian as an individual choice. And then it's community, versus these others are community and then personal. So I think it's a little bit of the theology of how it works. But James, real quickly, I saw you had your hand up there, brother.
Yeah, a couple different things. Totally unrelated. One, the mental health crisis that you talked about, Doctor. So maybe we can take this offline, like how, so for context, I'm on the Toledo Fire Rescue Department as a chaplain, and there's definitely a mental health crisis in the city of Toledo, but also in the department. What are some practical steps that I can take to point these guys and girls, 600 strong, on the department to help them with their mental health? That's the first loaded question. Second one is totally unrelated. Is okay, we need to get people in church. Absolutely been going to church since I was born. Saved at 4 years old. I elder at our church, love church, but how do we get them growing right when they walk in the door? Because people are so busy. The whole thought of them, well, let's get them in a small group. Let's get them doing something. Let's get them serving. Very difficult until they get mature. Well, it can take quite a while going to a service on Sunday morning and getting mature, right? I mean, it could take, because we forget so much after we leave the service. We have life happens, and even if we keep notes, are we going to refer those notes? Can we find those notes? How can we keep it in their face using modern technology? Mm-hmm. We just recently launched a division of a church as a nonprofit to tackle that head on. I'm not going to talk about today, but I think we need to get people in church. But even more important than that, I mean, we can get them in church, but how do we get them growing immediately? And I think we've got a good tool to do that. And someday when Rodney lets me talk more, I will share that. But just kind of near and dear, those are two different things, and not looking for answers, just to kind of go off. I sent you a LinkedIn request, Rebekah. We could talk about that later, but anyway, That's all I got.
I'm just talking about LinkedIn real quickly. If you guys want to drop your LinkedIn connections into the chat, that way we can connect with one another and connect across. Because part of this is networking, part of this is supporting each other, part of this is kind of helping each other be successful. sometimes even practically in business work. You know, if you want to move some stuff around the country, call ASAP, right? You mean, so like that kind of practicality piece to it. Yeah, so throw your LinkedIn into the chat and we can kind of follow up with each other. Rebekah, some thoughts on those comments you heard, just to give you a chance to reflect. I want to give Adrian a couple minutes just to introduce himself and share. He's got a vision coming up here pretty soon. I want to make sure we hear from him real quickly, and then just give anybody else a chance sort of the last 10 minutes, just to 5-10 minutes, just to kind of you know, share anything that they're doing or things they want the group to know, and then we always end in a word of prayer. So Rebekah, some thoughts as this hits you?
I think, James, I hear what you're saying. I think community is everything. Cultivating a community where, for me, students feel like they belong, where teenagers in our youth group feel like they belong, where people in our church feel like they belong. That is the way. That's the way to build the church. That's the way to disciple. We have an explosion happening in our youth group right now that's been really exciting to be a part of, because the students are experiencing God in community in a way they've never had. We just had and so all of these little things are cropping up. So we call them crews, like a life group or a small group. So I'm the high school 11th and 12th grade girls crew leader, and we do all of these things outside of the church. We're getting together for Bible study. We're getting together for coffee. We're doing fun, sleepovers and things. This is teenagers, but they're experiencing love and belonging in a way that they never have, and they can't get enough of it. And then the next week they're bringing a friend, and then the next week that friend is bringing a friend. We are seeing this. We have like
Awesome.
a dozen families that are coming to the church in the last 6 months because their student started coming to youth group, changed their life, started bringing all of their siblings, and now all of the kids are coming to church, and the parents are like, I got to come check this out. And so I'm trying
what's going
to,
on there? I got to see
while
what my
I'm
kids are up
seeing
to.
what's happening in the youth group level, my one of my 16-year-olds has the absolute heart of an evangelist, and recently he wanted to learn, like we did this whole study on communion. His youth pastor came and did this Bible study for all the kids that really wanted to learn communion so that they could do it with their friends and understand why we do it, what it means, for the purpose of him starting a prayer and communion classroom where students can come to get prayer. And so as I'm watching all this happen in our teenagers, they have no fear. There's no real boundaries. They have no personal boundaries. And so they don't have fear in just being bold and speaking into people's lives. And so I'm trying to, now how do I fit that into my context of what I'm doing with a college student who needs the same thing, and frankly, adults who need the same thing? How do we create spaces where community is warm and accepting, and they really do feel like they belong? Because that's where people's lives are going to change.
Yeah, that's good. That's very good. Hey, and just for the sake of time, and I need to keep an eye on this because I get so excited about the conversation. Adrian, I want to just give you, can you just in 2 or 3 minutes quickly share a little bit about what you're doing and what you're working on, so we're aware of that and we can be praying for that for you. And then we're going to literally have 5 minutes left to swing around the group real quickly to get some responses from people.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Rod, and thank you, Rebekah, for sharing that message. And, I really resonate with that too, and especially with the younger kids. Just last week, I had an opportunity to speak at my former high school to at least a couple hundred kids and share my story of almost losing everything at once, and then sharing the story of having them persevere through God and the growth that comes through that. But one of the things that I'm really excited to be working on is the Congressional Medal of Honor Convention. I volunteer on the executive committee there and head up the sponsorships, is coming to Detroit for the first time ever this year. And it just so happens to coincide with America's 250th birthday. And the values of the Medal of Honor, I have come to realize, align very closely with Christian values of valor, integrity, perseverance, courage. And it's a great way that I see to be able to instill a legacy and more of a mindset to more people, where, as we just discussed this in Bible study this morning, where we can't necessarily force people to find Jesus and find God, but we can plant those seeds. So we're not constantly pruning the tree, that we are planting those seeds so that one day the next generation or current generations realize that, hey, Jesus and God is the way, and how can we guide them to that way? So I see taking on this massive effort of the Congressional Medal of Honor Convention, where these American heroes, where there's only 61 living today, to put that into perspective, out of the entire millions in the military that have served, working alongside national leadership, state leadership, very well-known business people. it's a phenomenal way to have an impact on the next generation, and the resources we have to be able to instill our messages into the next generation, where we will be doing school visits with Blackhawks and so on and so forth this fall, and truly a week of incredible service, sacrifice, integrity, courage, and sharing that not only with Michigan, but the rest of the world, and being part of Detroit's upbringing, where, it takes me 10, 20 hours a week, just all volunteer basis, where my goal is to raise $3 million through this. And we're on the way there, but any help we can get, please, I would love to connect and talk about it more.
Wow, Adrian, well done on taking on a monster project, but that sounds exciting.
Is that in the summer, or I thought it was like late September, early October?
September 30th through October 3rd is the official convention. And my goal, if we get to 3 million quick enough, I would like to do an additional week with just school visits, where we go to schools, we go to churches, we go to hospitals, we go to 911 call centers, and we have access to the Blackhawks, so why not use them? It just costs us some more money to fly in recipients, have them share their stories. A lot of them are Christians. They're sharing these stories where they shouldn't be alive, and the only reason they are alive today, or that they saved the lives of hundreds of people in Afghanistan or Vietnam, is because of God.
Wow. There might be a college that needs to get a Black Hawk on top of the roof there too. So yeah, you can land it. Well, Adrian, we'll certainly be praying about that. It sounds exciting because, I'm a citizen because I wanted to be here. It took me 10 years and $10,000 because I love this country, and it's free, and I can speak about Christ because of guys like that. So thank you for celebrating that. We're going to run a time real quick here. So just quickly, let's swing around the group real quickly. What jumped out for you today? I've got you guys in a circle here. So, hey, Meredith, if you can jump online there real quickly, what's jumped out for you today as you've been thinking about it? What inspired you? What motivated you? What kicked you in the tail is kind of what I normally say. Any responses from you?
Yeah, I actually, so sorry, I jumped in here a little bit late. I love everything everyone has had to say and how happy and encouraging everyone is. I love everyone's ideas. I actually just got laid off by my company on Friday, and James was quickly introduced to me within that time span of a day, which brought me to hopefully a new opportunity and working with James and what he's trying to do. So that's why I'm on this call. And sorry I'm not on camera, so I can't connect with you guys better.
No, you're fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. We'll pray for you when we end here, because just as Rebekah was sharing, sometimes it's those crazy crises that we think that God flips. God's fantastic about taking the worst and flipping it to the best. The cross becomes the salvation of the world, right? So I'm excited what God's going to do with you, Meredith. It's fantastic. Hey, Eric, you next on my screen, buddy. What's jumping out for you from the middle of the country there, where hopefully it's above 20 degrees?
It was 25 yesterday. It's a little warmer today. So anyway, but as you know, I lived in Michigan for a while. Rebekah, I really appreciate what your testimony and what you were saying. I did jump on a little late, but as far as youth and school and college, my daughter went to Charleston Southern, and she had to go and classes and go to chapel and all that. And that really brought her into Christ. And now I was able to see my grandson get baptized 2 weeks ago. He's only 6, but the whole family is part of that. And I take it all the way back to when she was going to college. So I really respect what you're doing there.
Thank you.
Woo. Love that. Christy, you next on my screen here. So what's jumping out for you? What's moving you?
Yes, thank you, Rebekah, so much for sharing. This is my first meeting with you all, and I feel so encouraged. So I am a coach now, but I have a long background in mental health as a therapist, and I totally agree with you. I love what you're doing at the college with just sitting with students. As a therapist, I was always like, we have got to practically give tips and tools for people to just be able to get through the day. And they're so simple. We just have not educated people. And so super passionate about that. And I love that you're doing that. So thank you for sharing your heart. Business is the most amazing mission field that's out there. So totally hands down agree with you there. Thank you.
Love it, love it. Thank you, Christy. Hey, Jay, I'm not sure if you can jump online if you're in the office. Anything jumping out for you, Jay?
I'm here.
Cool, cool.
Rebekah, thank you so much. No, I had some people come in the office, so I had to black out for a minute. Nonetheless, so the part that I really caught on to is I'm rebuilding. I'm trying to build more of a Christian-based company with Rod's help. Obviously, we meet all the time. We're friends outside of the workplace. And but what catches my mind is the mentoring. So I've obviously needed mentoring. I think we all have at some point, but I may have needed a little more than others. But I do think that be open-minded to the people you're mentoring. They're also mentoring you. And if you're open-minded to the conversation that's coming back to you and the questions that they ask and the way they see things helps you look at things from a much broader view. So mentoring, I'm glad that was one of your mainstays as far as the growth and where you're at and what you're doing, because that makes me feel good about it, because I do take a lot of time in that and understanding different thought processes from the others and just being open-minded. So mentoring is a two-way street.
That's so good.
So thank you. Everything you said is very cool. Thank you for your time.
Jay, that's fantastic. That's excellent. And Jay is a fantastic coach and naturally a good mentor. Alex, you're next on my screen here. So from across the world, what jumps out from you, brother, from the lovely country of Portugal?
Yeah, it's a bit warmer here at the moment. First of all, Rebekah, I have to say it's phenomenal what you're doing. I've always been fascinated by individuals that change history. You know, people like Martin Luther King, Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, even Mother Teresa. And it's phenomenal if you look at some of them with very little resources, how they've changed phenomenally the world. So people think one person can't make a difference. So firstly, I want to say, you know, Rebekah, if there's 10 or 100 more of you, I think you are making a huge difference. And maybe not a Gandhi or Nelson Mandela today, but I want to recognize what you're doing. You know, just on 5 children, it's phenomenal. I know Rodney's got 3 girls, but I've got 1 and it's like hard work. So just on the 5 goals is phenomenal, but everything you're doing at the school, it's just unbelievable. And I think I want to recognize that first of all. I just want to give an interesting comment that Rodney, when I came from a broken family as well. So some of the stuff you suffered, not having a father and everything, going into sales, also the same story. And when I was 15, 16, I actually, one way I got sort of some guidance and positive stuff coming into my life was YMCA youth camps. And my youth leader was Rodney. So that's 40 years ago. And it just shows how you can plant the seed, you know, even going back then. Those youth camps have got a lot of memories for me, a lot of things that my mind was open to in terms of talking about. And then just signing off, some things Rodney and I talk about is how we debate whether business decisions come first or Christian or people decisions come first. You know, how do you make a business decision? And one of the things that we put in the middle was exactly what you said about ethics. You know, if you're doing ethically the right business decision, but we never asked what is the God decision, obviously, which is a good point that you made. So that was phenomenal. I think mental health is the biggest. There was a chaplain asking about what to do with regards to the youth and even in your school. And I think mental health is the new frontier. You know, medical health was maybe a frontier for a while. Peace was a big frontier, which is a bit uncertain now. But mental health is definitely the big future, because for everybody and globally, and you know, I've lived in Brazil for 10 years, the UK for 10 years, Portugal now 2, South Africa 28. So I've moved around a lot. And mental health is definitely the biggest, with the instant gratification problem, the anxiety which comes from geopolitics and the uncertainty of war and everything that's changing in the world. The AI is going to change the job place. So that's created uncertainty. So there's all these new aspects that are creating a lot of mental health issues. And Rodney and I have also talked about this thing we call, through different discussions, another friend of mine, Performance Plus, which is exactly how do you impact, minds positively. But we were speaking specifically within a company situation, because there's actually three things that every company, it needs to make profit. It needs to get performance, but it's down to people. And in the past, I think people overlooked in terms of having the tools to be able to live positively. And ironically, you made the word, which is your center. If people don't have a good center, a good balance inside them when they go out of the environment every day, out of their home or into the workplace, they get all these different impacts, and then they just go off course. And they, and that's the anxiety and that you see coming in, and the all these difficulties. So I think you addressed everything perfectly, and it's a phenomenal field to get talking about, which I don't really want to say more than what I have. So thank you very much.
Oh man, that's excellent. Real quickly, let's just, Brad, real quickly, your reaction. We're kind of out of time, but let's just quickly bounce through. We've got a couple more here. Brad, real quickly, your thoughts?
Well, mine is really short because it goes right to the 5 children that you adopted. I work for Right to Life of Michigan, and so bravo. And I'm reached out to you on LinkedIn. I'd love to sit down and talk with you. I'm actually real close. You're my neighbor in Rochester Christian. I'm in the neighborhood south, sitting in my house. So
Nice.
Very close.
Yeah, Brad can buy you a coffee. That sounds good, man. Ange, for you, real quickly, can you just give us your gut reaction?
I think you said Angela. It's been cutting in and out a little bit for me, but I'm here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. This is my first meeting as well. James said, let me just send you the link, and I'll stand back behind, for you. So whether I'm in the right place or not, I don't know, but I think wherever there are Christians gathered, I'm in the right place. So thank you for James referring me. I'm not sure what this meeting honestly is. But please add me to the distribution list so I can keep coming. The thing that resonated
Glad to
with
have
me.
you, Angela.
What's that?
Glad to have you. I got to jump in my other meeting, so you guys see you later. Rodney knows who I am, so if you have any questions.
Well, and I'll say the thing that resonated with me was indeed, Rebekah, your point to be reflection of God's heart. And I think this is, I coach Christians, I coach leaders who are seeking as a leadership development coach and trainer in the corporate space, particularly in the rough and tumble, world of manufacturing and technology and STEM. And this is my background. And I know people say you serve the people you were. And so I look back on my story and be happy to tell it someday. But I think that is powerful, and I'm going to steal it. So thank you for that.
That's awesome. Let's just see here. That's Kobe. Angela. Mike Covey, you got a second to just
go to a different meeting.
Oh, Mike, are you heading out, or are you online still?
Mike's up.
I'm here.
Oh.
Cool. Your thoughts, quick?
I got coffee quick, but no, I thought it was great. I sent you an email, sent you on LinkedIn. Would love to connect with you. Love to help.
Awesome.
And Mike means that too, by the way. Mike rolls up his sleeves quickly and gets into action.
Angela, there's a few Christian colleges out that way, right? In Holland and in Grand Rapids. So maybe there's a link. We got to get those other colleges and universities involved.
Yeah, that's good.
I've been a mentor for Calvin University for about 5 years now, and it's a wonderful program.
Oh man, there could be some overlap here. It's exciting. Last 2 comments, one from Melissa across the table here quickly, and then John, and then we'll have Rebekah finish us off here today. So Melissa, some comments from you real quick, some thoughts?
Just real quick, 2 things stand out to me. Just that you're at a university and that age group. I have a daughter who's 20, and so I really resonate with that age and how much they need Christianity to be built into, their education at that age.
Yeah.
So that stood out to me. And then I love the whole no technology.
Yeah.
Turn off the technology. So
that's
those
good.
2 things really stood out to me. Yeah.
Johnny, you just jumped back in here. I don't want to miss you. What jumped out for you? What resonated for you? What disrupted you?
The main thing that stuck out is just the youth, the generation that needs the mental health assistance. They need God. They need, I'm around it as well. And but one thing I noticed in the younger generation, which is like really cool to see in my family. I have nieces and nephews who are in non-religious homes since me and my wife have been down a journey ourselves. Now all of a sudden they're telling their mom and dad to go to church, and they're in the church now. And high school nephew who now has a church group in public schools, who goes to church and invited his dad, who doesn't have any religious background, and his mom and their family. They're actually going through a lot. So the kids, their 10-year-old daughter and their 16-year-old son, are guiding the parents through a hard time, while they're stepping back and watching their kids. Like, what is this stuff about Jesus all of a sudden? They made 2026 boards and what they wanted to do in 2026, and their main goal was to get close to Jesus and grow in Jesus. So there is a big movement in the youth,
Yes.
which is really cool to see, because growing up when that was not mainstream. That was not, we went to church, stuff like that, but there was
Once
not
in a while,
in the school.
It wasn't a priority for my kids when growing up.
Yeah, it wasn't in the school. And to see the young kids do that, I mean, I remember in third grade, I was showing a book to somebody because he was an atheist, and I was trying to tell him, no, Jesus, loves you. But that was like, what are you doing?
That was
like, that was weird. That was a weird kid telling somebody about Jesus. But it's cool that that's kind of becoming popular, amongst the youth, which is nice to see. That's really cool.
I don't agree with the weird kid. I believe that God is using you, my friend, planting seed.
Well, I'm just saying.
Yeah, but well done. It's amazing. John, real quick.
No, I've already said my part. I'm just super excited about where it can go. Like with Angela, Rebekah, like it's not just when I love the phrase where it says, doing God's work is not a competitive sport. So and it kind of ties into Ronald Reagan, like there's no limit to what women can do is if they're not worried about who gets the credit for it. So the credit goes to him, the credit goes to God, he gets all the glory. Be the hands and feet and get out of the way, like get things started, get things moving. And look at this whole thing over the last year and a half that is developed into, and you find out there's people doing this all over the country, and it's super inspiring. So thank you very much, Rebekah. I'm looking very much forward to talking and having more conversations with you, as well as Adrian. I want to get another conversation with you. I got an idea that Brad might be part of that conversation, as well as my son. But yeah, looking forward to it.
Can you really quickly tell Angela what these meetings are? Because she said she wasn't really sure.
Just define the meeting. The meeting is any Christian that wants to get together and get a little kind of motivation and shot in the arm. It's run by the Michigan Christian Chamber of Commerce. And basically just the whole idea is that I leave today so inspired by Rebekah's story, even your stories, as you guys have been sharing. And so the whole idea is that I work better. I'm focused. What I walk away with is I want to have the heart of God everywhere I go today. And I want to treat everybody with the heart of God, so that it's like, so every time we meet, there's always something that sticks out, and it's always profound. And Rebekah, you have not disappointed by a long shot. And I just hope God lets us do a whole lot more life together. You sound like a fantastic human. If you'd like to just kind of pray us out, if you don't mind, we're way over time, guys. I apologize, but it was so good and so rich today. Thank you.
Sure. Yes, I'd love to pray us out. I did send a link of a podcast I listened to this morning that I think is just in line with what we're talking about, of just being better listeners. So it was fantastic. Our pastor asked us all to listen to it this week if you want to listen to it. And please add me to the distribution. I would love to continue to connect. Okay.
Thank you.
Father, thank you so much for this group of people that are just seeking your face and seeking your kingdom. Lord, we want to make a difference in the world around us. We want to make a difference in our organizations, in our families, in our communities, Father. And just thank you for giving us friendship and community where we can do that, and that we can, that all just points to you. We love you, and just pray blessing on the rest of everyone's day. In your name we pray. Amen.